Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my studio. How are you today? So my name is Ursula Gullow, and this is my Monday live stream session. I'm going to just take a little time to get set up today for our assignment. We are going to be painting self-portraits in the studio. So we'll just hang out and see who else shows up. And in the meantime, I'll give a little plug. Feel free to like any videos of mine that you see, give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends. If you want to leave a nice comment below or a donation, there's a link below. That's fabulous. But I do try to do this every Monday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. So if you miss the live recording, you can always come back and watch the recordings. Hey, Lisa, yay. This is going to be fun. This is one of my favorite subject matters, and I'll talk about that. I said that last week, and I think I said it the week before. But I really like working from life. I like working from observation as opposed to photographs. And so this is a great thing to try, painting yourself in your studio surrounded by all of your creative tools, especially right now in, as we're all trying to stay socially distant and at home. This is a really good exercise to try. So you can take some time to gather your art materials. I'll hang out a few more minutes and see who else shows up. But feel free to work on a canvas today. I'm actually going to work on paper. I'm working on a special kind of paper that's treated for oil paints, but you can use any material on it. So I thought, well, maybe one day or maybe in the future, I'll want to paint over what I do today with oils. So I decided to just pull this out again. While we're waiting, I'm going to look up some pictures of self-portraits to show you all. Self-portraits in the studio. So you don't have to necessarily... This doesn't have to be, you don't have to have a huge representation of yourself necessarily. I'm going to share this one. This is from my website from a residency I did last year. I did a couple of portraits in my studio. Actually, this particular second one I'm going to share is from my studio here in my home, and it's actually from a photograph. You can tell I'm taking a photograph in the picture, but today you can work from a photo, but I'm going to work from life because I think it's a little bit more fun. And let's look up. See here. I've always really liked this portrait by Duran, who is a Fauvist painter. And this is a very classic painting of him in his studio. But if you just type in self-portrait in studio, it's amazing how many wonderful images will pop up for you. And I am particularly interested in women's self-portraiture, especially in art history. I did find this image that I shared. Hopefully that opens for everyone. It's by a Welsh painter. What is her name? Shani. Rhys James. Her paintings are really fun. I had not heard of her before, but when I did a search for painting of an artist in her portrait or in her studio, that's what came up. And I really like her painting a lot. So I'm going to look into her a little bit more as well. But yeah, I've been interested in women's self-portraiture in their studio specifically because back in the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, when women weren't allowed to be in academies of art with men, they had to resort to working in their studios, working from their own likenesses in their studios. And then often women would paint themselves throughout European art history. Women painted themselves in their studios, surrounded by their brushes, surrounded by their tools, almost as a business branding type of a thing, if you want to think of it that way. This was a way for them to show, I'm an artist, I'm here, this is what I do. Hire me to paint your portrait. I'm very good at it. So it was like advertising for women to paint themselves in their studios. I know I could look these up online, but it's going to be kind of awkward. This is a really cool book about women's self-portraiture called Seeing Ourselves by Frances Borzello. And there's just some really wonderful paintings in here. This is Anna Vusser from 1691, age 12. How cool. And let's see, Katarina van Hemsen, 1548. This might be one of the oldest self-portraits we know of a woman in her studio. So there's a really wonderful tradition of this, of women painting themselves in their studios. Sophonisba Anguissola painted this of herself making a painting, which again shows her proficiency and her technical skill as an artist. And this was a way for her to advertise that. So this is a great one. I refer to this a lot. Judith Leyster. This is one of the first paintings of a woman smiling. I think I referred to this last when we did the smiling portraits. But she's shown a little bit of teeth. And that was a little, salacious back in the day. So yeah, I recommend this book, Seeing Ourselves, Women's Self-Portraits by Frances Borzello. I'll include the link below. It's just a really rich book about women painting themselves. Hey, Joanne. So let's see, it's a little bit after 4. It's a little after 11. So let's go ahead and get set up. Now, it took me a while actually to figure out, to maneuver how things are going to be so you could see my paper as I'm working and my subject matter. Oh, and I did pull this out so you could see this. You could go this route where you set up a mirror on your table of things if you need to. And this is a mixed media piece. There's decorative paper added to this. So you could use different media today if you wish. But yeah, I needed to figure out how am I going to do this. So you can see what I'm painting and my painting. So it took me a little while to figure it out. But yeah, so I'm going to work on this piece of paper. As I said earlier, it is treated for oil paint, which is a really fun, it's cool if you do work with a variety of media. This is cool paper to look up, paper that's treated for oils. Now, I also refer to this when we paint an interior, whether we're painting a land or a self-portrait or not. I think of it as a landscape. And if you've ever done plein air landscape painting where you go out into the landscape to paint, I think they're very similar. Painting your interior space is very similar to painting a plein air painting. So you may already have experience doing this. So one of the things you'll want to do first is just sort of set up what is your composition going to be? What's the, it took me a while. I was thinking, do I want my paper vertically or horizontal? And I think I want it vertical today. I don't know why, it's just calling to me. And then if you want to try to just compose a design for yourself, a composition for yourself. If you want to take out your camera and kind of set something up, that might be helpful. Just to kind of help you see what you are going to paint. You can work from this photograph and refer to it, but also it just helps you to like get your flatten what you're gonna paint. If you have a viewfinder, that's a good device to use. I'm gonna need to use my glasses today. So we'll start off by just doing some sketching, and you can use a pencil, a marker. I thought, because I'm going to work big today, I thought it would be fun to try different drawing materials. So I might start with a pencil and maybe move into marker. And I was even thinking of using some watercolor pencils today. And just start with the drawing, and then we'll ease our way into the painting of this. So I'm grabbing my markers here. Actually, I'll start with a marker so you can see a little better what I'm doing. So I hope you all are set up with you have some sense of what it is. You got your mirror set up. And remember, it's okay to edit. I'm actually going to start with this tray here. I'm going to start with the foreground of the composition and just let the other stuff build off of that or grow off of that. So let's see. And if you just want to work on little sketches in your sketchbook, that's fine. I just thought, well, I'll just jump in and go ahead and do this. It's Thanksgiving week. I don't have to be anywhere today, so I'll just take my time with this. And I'm just going to start with contour drawing. I really love drawing art making objects. You probably have noticed I have a lot of still lifes of art supplies, and there's certain art supplies that keep making their way into my paintings that they've almost become autobiographical in and of themselves, like the scissors, the paint stick, some of these little paint bottles. So I just really enjoy drawing these shapes. So we're kind of combining today self-portraiture, landscape painting, and still life. So there's a lot going on. I'm just checking to see how everyone's doing. Before I get too detailed with this, I'm actually going to go ahead and lay out other parts of this painting or this composition. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my studio and how important it is for me to have a studio. And if you don't have a designated place to make your artwork, I just really want to encourage you to try to find a space that you can carve out for yourself. If you're watching this, I imagine you probably have a space already. Um, it's just so important. And, I also don't take it for granted. Like, it's really not, it's hard. It's hard to find an extra room um, that you can do your work on. I have a friend who is a mother, and when her kid was young, she just painted on her kitchen table all the time, on the dining room table. She took over the dining room table, and she said she liked that better than painting in some room in the back of the hallway, in the back of the house, because she needed to be out in the middle of things and she needed to be able to jump into things. And I really like that idea. And I love having a studio. Even though my studio is really small, I just love it because it is my space where I can make it as dirty as I want it to be. I'll clean it up on my own terms. Um, and I don't have to, I can do whatever I want with the space. And I really like being able to make my messes and clean them up. So for me, a painting like this is also just paying homage to that element of um, freedom almost. There's a lot of really cool blogs online profiling people in their studios. If you just do a little Google search on it, It's not hard to find some, and I can share some later. I'll share some in my newsletter, which if you aren't subscribed, there is a link in the comments or in the video description that you can subscribe to. Okay, I'm gonna get around to drawing me now. How's everyone doing? I hope you're all busy and content working on your own portraits right now. Overwhelmed with perspective. Take it just a little bit at a time. Don't try to do it all right off the bat. Maybe just start with something close up to you, and then fill in the rest rather than trying to get all of that information in right off the bat, because it can be really overwhelming. And if you want to also do a sketch as like a blind drawing, a blind contour, just beginning with one thing and then building everything off of that. I find that sometimes that way of approaching the art is less overwhelming. So Lisa, you might try that. Like just start with something, even if it's not you, like just start with something close to you, like an object near you, and just build everything off of that. I hope that makes sense. It might make it a little bit easier to deal with. And let me know if that helps. And also, if things are kind of quirky and wonky looking, great. Like, I think that adds to the character of the piece. for what it's worth. So yeah, if you're getting overwhelmed with perspective, like I said, just bite off little pieces of the composition. I don't know if that makes sense, but just be gradual about it and don't. And it's the same with landscape painting out in plein air. Like simplify, edit. You don't have to put every single detail in. Um, it's a little more of a challenge because in some ways, like painting an interior, you don't have as much flexibility with the subject matter, but um, maybe just allow yourself that flexibility, if that makes sense. Yeah, because mine is all off also. But yeah, I find this kind of subject matter to be really good, almost journalistic uh, material. just to describe what's going on with your life right now, even. And, you know, in 100 years, these objects that you're painting are going to be relics or, you know, just really cool and weird looking to people. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of perspective stuff happening in this that's not correct necessarily, but I'm just going to go ahead with it. So I have my drawing down, and let's see, I guess I'll just go ahead and start painting. Trying to think of how I want to approach this. Well, first I'll just get all my paints out. And again, feel free to ask any questions if you have any. Do you all remember your first studio? Like for real, your first studio? Was it your kitchen table? The first place you started making art? Or you just, the first place you started to be creative? I think for me today, something I'm going to try is I'm just going to start filling in the shapes with the colors. Instead of doing a lot of layering, I'm just going to start black, almost like this is a coloring book or a watercolor. Joanne, using dining table in sunny corner still. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. Good for you, Joanne. That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like where there's a will, there's a way. One time I, you know, I don't know, 15 years ago, 17 years ago now, when I first came to Asheville, I came from Seattle and I stayed with my brother. He lives outside of Raleigh. I stayed with him. And I remember I like set up a table in like the weirdest little corner. It was a tiny table that he had, and I just set it up and started painting. Okay, I'm just giving myself a full range of colors today. I've already moved all my paint tubes around. Let's see, I think just for fun, I'm gonna go ahead and try some different medium materials. I'm gonna, just because I pulled these out, I'm gonna work with my watercolor pencils for a minute, just to see what they do. And I have my water here. And I like to dip it right into the water and see what's gonna happen. No, I'm not in love with that. Let's see. I just love that kind of sketchy mark sometimes in a painting, like these kind of marks in combination with paint, especially in a mixed media piece like what I'm doing. You might be doing something different. Um, then adding water, of course, is going to blend that, but you can also see, like, if you're working with watercolor pencils or watercolor like sticks, you can also see what happens if you just paint over them with white paint. That will also blend it. Okay, I'm gonna just jump in here. Something I like about working on paper also is that I don't feel the need, like I would on a canvas, to fill all of the paper. Um, like I like areas where it might be more unresolved. Ultimately, I mean, you can do that on a canvas as well, but there's something about paper. For me, I just really like the texture of the paper and seeing that texture also. Trying to remember what my first studio was. I grew up in a pretty big family, so there wasn't a lot of private space. I'm remembering now retreating to the garage. We had like an outbuilding garage, and it had an upstairs that was pretty open. And I would go up there and like draw. I remember I went through like, I'm writing poetry time as a teenager. But I don't know. That was probably my first like studio, if I think about it. One of the artists that's profiled in that book that I held up, so I think her name is Lavinia Fontana, and she painted in the 1500s, 1600s, I believe. I might need to go back and check that, but because women weren't allowed to paint nude figures, she would paint, like she had a bunch of statues, like little sculpture statues in her studio that she painted um, to demonstrate that she could paint anatomy. I thought that was a pretty interesting and resourceful way of getting around certain societal limitations, I guess. And let the colors in your painting also describe, be an aspect of this. Um, be a, like a descriptive aspect of this. Lisa, I'm wondering if you're still out there, if you were able to work around um, your overwhelmed state. So yeah, I'm just going around my whole painting now and just blocking things in. And since I am intentionally doing a mixed media piece, I am going to just on paper, there's a lot of different things I can be doing with media. So I'm working with paint right now, but I might go back to some color pencil. And like I said, this is a paper that's primed for oil paint. So I may even go in with some oils a little bit later. And that is certainly acceptable. You can work with acrylics and then work with oils on top of the acrylics. Still here, I started over and narrowed down the space a lot, and it's more successful. That is so great. I'm really glad. And you might find that because this project tends to, I mean, we have still life, self portraiture, and landscape happening. Um, you might find that you're focused on one of those aspects of the painting more than the others. Like I'm kind of just getting into the still life, the objects right now. Yeah, when I first was painting, I worked from photographs almost all of the time, like to the point where I thought there must be something like this isn't right. But I just really liked it, and I did a lot more narrative painting and just combined photographs a lot. Um, and then I started to get kind of like I don't want to say bored, but maybe the challenge of that um, subsided a little bit. And then I just got really into the materials of paint. Um, and that's when I got more into abstract art and making abstract paintings and more impressionistic paintings. And I have found in the last few years, I've gotten now a lot more into drawing and painting from observation. So, painting from life, um, I find a really fun challenge, but definitely it's overwhelming. But I like how the light will shift. And I really do like painting plein air as well. I tend to get kind of lazy because you have to bring all your stuff outside, but I do like that. I love that painting that I shared by Shawnee Reese James, just because I love how messy it is. I just love like the cacophony of supplies that she painted. There's like a bunch of weird gloves, used gloves in the painting that I think is really funny. Um, it's a good description of a studio. I really like that painting. So I hope everyone's doing okay out there, painting your studios or yourself in your at your table, at your kitchen table, wherever you may be. Or just drawing yourself. That is great also. And I would love to see whatever it is you come up with today or in the near future or whatever from this assignment. I know we did a video at one point of our studio interiors, and it is a little different to incorporate ourselves into that. It's hard to see that. So yeah, try different tools, different drawing tools, make this a mixed media piece. I'm considering, as I'm doing this, I'm considering that all wall aspects of my studio will be done in this kind of sketchy style, and objects will be painted and drawn, and I might go into the portrait with some oils later on to get a little more detail, but we'll see. But it's kind of interesting maybe to think about like describing like different tools. Is that the word, describing? Assigning different tools to specific elements of the painting. I'm just trying that out. We'll see what happens. And I'm painting a little bit over those drawn marks, just to blend them a little, but you can still see like the scribble in, the scribble is still there. All right, well, I have a lot more to do here, but hopefully this gives you a jumping off point. Let's look at what I got. I wish I could make it a little bigger, but here's the start. It's pretty obvious. I'm not too concerned with this perspective being correct. I just needed a place to jump off, you know? And as I keep working on this and as I keep refining it, I'll make corrections here and there. I would like to leave a looseness to it for most of the painting and then maybe get in and do more tighter details in one aspect of it. If I finish this, I will post a link in the video description below so that you can see it online. I'm not always so good at finishing my paintings, I must admit. All right, well, this is the end of our hour together. Thank you everyone for joining today. It's really fun to paint with you. Just started adding color, still at it. Yay, Lisa, keep working. I'm gonna when I turn my camera off, I'm gonna keep working on this today. And so we will be like doing this in solidarity with each other. Happy Thanksgiving, Paulette. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Yeah, thank you, everyone. We will be back next week. And please feel free to leave a comment below or give a thumbs up if this was fun for you. And happy Thanksgiving. I love you guys. Thanks so much. Bye. Trying watercolor pencils for the first time. Yay, Joanne. I want to see it. I want to see what happens. I'm going to do another mixed media class in the near future because there's new techniques and new products and things to try out. So keep a lookout for that. All right. Bye, everyone.